The general contempt created by the spectacle thus, for new reasons, restored the fascination of what in Kipling's day was called the Great Game. Conspiracy theory of history was, in the 19th century, a reactionary and ridiculous belief, at a time when so many powerful social movements were stirring up the masses. Today's pseudo-rebels are well aware of this, thanks to hearsay or a few books, and believe that it firmly holds true for eternity. They refuse to recognize the real praxis of their time. It is too sad for their cold hope. The state notes this fact and plays on it. Within almost every aspect of international political life, and ever more important aspects of internal politics are conducted and displayed in the style of secret services, with decoys, disinformation, and double explanations, one may conceal another, or may only seem to. The spectacle confines itself to revealing a wearisome world of necessary incomprehensibility.
Hello, and welcome to the Regrettable Century. We are talking about conspiracy theories today, and this was actually kind of hard to find anything good to read about.
Not hard to find anything to read about, but really hard to find anything good to read.
Yeah, I mean, right before we started recording, I was talking about how the positions are the conservative position, which is everything's a conspiracy, and that's why our beautiful, perfect system isn't working properly. And then there's like the Marxist, Trotsky, mostly Trotskyist position, which is just like nothing is a conspiracy, and if it is, it doesn't matter. And then there's the liberal position, which is just like conspiracy theories are morons. I would never believe in a conspiracy. Only right-wingers believe in conspiracies. Actually, have you heard about the Russiagate conspiracy? You know, I mean, so it's like,
yeah.
But liberals take sort of like the least coherent position of all of them. You know,
yeah, for sure.
Theirs is the least honest position. Marxists don't believe in them and think that they don't matter. Rightists do only believe in them and don't think that only they matter. So it's like, and the liberals are like, oh, we don't believe in that shit, but then they secretly do believe in them, or not so secretly, whatever.
Yeah, I feel like I remember.
They just don't recognize that their conspiracy theories as conspiracy theories. They think they're just doing like political analysis,
right?
I think I think one of the things that I was able to draw out of the readings is a sense that there is a through line with conspiracy theories that ties them together, that those who are in power or tightly connected to socially connected and ideologically connected to those who are in power are highly dismissive of conspiracy theories. And those who are very, very remote, like socially remote and ideologically remote from power, are much more inclined to accept that the powerful elite engage in conspiratorial actions, in favor of their own interests at the expense of others.
Right.
And this makes a lot of sense. That people would. That this is the way it would be, that it would work. And I think that you see that the liberals eschewing conspiracy theory as such because they're very embedded into the systems and structures of power. But then when these when these exogenous shocks come in and shove them out of the way, and an outsider figure like Trump comes into positions of power and brings his coterie with him and pushing them out of positions of power, and their structures become antagonistic to the new power structures that Trump brings along with him. They immediately revert into conspiracy theories of their own, of saying the entities that we regard and have regarded as bad guys are which is to say Russia is conspiring against us and taking America down from the inside and conspiring with Trump to do so. But they don't regard that as a conspiracy theory because of their previous position of regarding conspiracy theory as a wackadoo thing for outsiders.
I think
Right.
that you have to be incredibly dishonest not to admit that conspiracies are real, they happen often, and that they are probably going on right now and have major impacts on the way that the world works and the way that our society is structured. Now, of course, I would say that, like, that sounds right-wing of me to say that. But at the same time, I sort of agree with I guess we read a Socialist Alternative article that, as well. And I actually did agree with their position a little bit, and that is that it doesn't matter for us. We still have to organize to take down the entire system anyway, right?
Yeah.
Right. The Socialist Alternative article is the one that I was kind of making fun of by saying conspiracy theories aren't real, and if they are, then it doesn't matter because we have to organize to take down the system anyway. I kind of agree with that logic. Like, what are we going to do about it if they are real? If there is a cabal of satanic pedophiles that controls the country, what are we going to do about it? The same thing that we would do if there wasn't one, which is organize to take down the system, right? Though
there's a certain degree to that, which I agree with, yeah. But I do think it matters if you okay, let's say you elect a socialist mayor of New York, and you think, oh, that's how we're going to help change the system. It really matters if you think that it's impossible to change the system because it's because of the way the strings are.
Pedophiles.
Yes.
Hey, look, I'm not saying that the system is controlled by satanic pedophiles. Well, I am.
I am.
But I don't think that they know they're satanic pedophiles. They're not doing, you know what I mean?
I don't think that they all know that they're satanic. But they definitely
I don't think they know they're satanic, but they're definitely pedophiles.
Yeah. And I'm not even sure about the other part either though.
No, they think they're just worshiping Moloch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
my Manichaean view of good and evil means that they're worshiping Satan, right?
Right.
Yeah. I was thinking about this Debord quote, this from the Comments on the Society of the Spectacle, which is written in the 80s, and it's regarded by whatever people who keep up with this stuff or comment on this stuff as the more negative and pessimistic and conspiranoiac second volume of the Society of the Spectacle. The reason why I opened with that is because he says in spectacular society, there's like a generalized conspiratorial nature of things, which is different than in class society. So really what he's talking about is specifically in the society which, let's say it was born in the 20s, maybe the early 30s. Really it kind of comes into full fruition with the post-war era. So I made this list of the major conspiracy theories that have dominated political and cultural discourse for the last 80 years.
Right.
People didn't really start talking about Operation Paperclip and Operation Gladio until much later.
Right. I think Operation Gladio to me is one of those sort of red pilling kind of things to learn about, where like the United States or NATO, a bunch of NATO intelligence agencies led by the CIA, organized with organized crime and secret societies, literal secret societies like the P2 Masonic Lodge in Italy, to stash weapons all around Europe just in case the Soviets invaded, so there would be a network of stay-behind forces to act as partisan groups. And in the process of doing all of this, they armed neo-fascist militias to assassinate public figures, to do false flag attacks like the Milan train bombing, to make the Communist Party in Italy look bad. And basically, the Years of Lead was an Operation Gladio thing. Yeah. And they employed serial killers, like in Belgium. They did weird MK Ultra type experiments on people. All kinds of crazy shit like that. And this is all come out now. It's all publicly available. And they brought massive amounts of of heroin money in and laundered it through the Vatican Bank in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. And this is all, you can read about this now. It's all declassified.
And the thing is,
to me, that is one of the most read. Yeah, I sound like a kook talking about all.
Sound like
this,
Dale Gribble, you know.
You don't even have to look very far. Just Google Operation Gladio, and you'll find any number of articles about it. And I don't know if you've got the this is sort of peripheral to Operation Gladio, the massive heroin smuggling operation run by the CIA out of Southeast Asia and then Afghanistan. And then I don't think you even have the Fort Bragg cartel stuff on here either, where special operations out of Fort Bragg have been running a sort of organized crime, smuggling, human trafficking, and drug smuggling ring in through Fort Bragg out of the places that special operations work in, like South America and Southeast Asia, Africa, the Middle East. Yeah, there's a book about it that by Seth Harp that came out recently. But yeah, there's a conspiracy there, sort of covered up by the United States government. It's not officially endorsed, but they can't really do too much about it, so they hush it up.
Well, they can definitely benefit from it too.
Yeah.
So on this list is it's kind of historical. You can kind of follow it from Operation Paperclip. That's like right at the end of the Second World War. Right. It ends with the Great Replacement Theory, or the Trump assassination attempts.
Right.
There are several of them though, where it's like there's a conspiracy and then it's hyphenated and it says Mossad. Like the JFK assassination, that's Mossad. The 9/11, that's Mossad.
No, wait, that's what people think, right?
Yeah, I know. I'm not endorsing any particular view on any particular view. I'm just saying this.
I'm still endorsing that the JFK was the CIA and the mafia working together.
Right, and like, I mean,
that's my official stance on that.
There's another variant of that detail, which is CIA, and then in parentheses you could put Mossad
because James Jesus Angleton has a direct connection to the group that was trying to overthrow Castro / could have possibly assassinated the CIA, and also the Mossad. Like he was heavily influenced by and under the thumb of the Mossad, supposedly, according to the tranche of documents that was released recently.
I also didn't put. I just thought of this: the Rosenbergs and the theft of the atomic bomb, and the way that not the atomic bomb, but like the plans for. And that's how Israel gets a nuclear weapon. Or also, there's 9/11.
Rosenbergs were how the Soviet Union got the nuclear weapon.
But also Israel. Right? That's all, again, I'm just talking about. Theories.
It's part of the same conspiracy. Okay,
I'm not endorsing any particular variant. I'm just saying. Then there's also like 9/11. That's Mossad. Epstein and everything connected to that. That's Mossad.
Actually,
Charlie Kirk's assassination. Yeah. So if there's a through line, well, if there's a framework, it's that spectacular society, or that is to say, a society which needs to present itself as participatory, whether it's a democratic participatory society, which requires all kinds of they live glasses that you could wear for different eras. The through line for all of that is that the Mossad, they're pretty heavily involved in most things. Maybe not like FEMA camps and like a fake moon landing or like the flat earth, because some of that stuff I put in there because the conspiracy brain can make you fucking crazy, can make you insane. And that's kind of like, that's the way it's all presented. Like I've read like 72 articles about how conspiracism is the purview of generally less educated, generally poorer, generally white men who are generally conservative. And that's because I don't know why exactly, but the idea is that they're crazy, or they don't think very much,
or they're dumb. Yeah,
or they're dumb. Yeah, just that they're dumb.
You know what you didn't put on here is COINTELPRO and Operation Chaos.
That's on there.
I don't know what. Oh yes, no, it is. It's after Gulf of Tonkin, before the moon landing.
Oh shit! I'm sorry. Yeah, I can't read things that are in all caps. It's fine now. That's all I can see when I look at it. So to me, I mean, like after Gladio, Operation Chaos is the other one that should be incredibly like red pilling. You can never learn about Operation Chaos and then think that the United States government can be trusted at all.
Yeah.
You know, Operation Chaos is when they brought CIA torture experts and infiltration experts from that were working in Vietnam in Operation Phoenix, and brought them to the United States to infiltrate, break up, cause chaos in leftist groups like the Black Panthers and SDS and stuff like that. And they which is illegal. They shouldn't have been able to operate on American soil. But the CIA ran programs to get people to kill themselves, kill each other. And I'm sure they did targeted assassinations and stuff too, but that just never came out publicly because there were all kinds of people that just disappeared or were shot, and it was blamed on someone else that they think could have possibly been the CIA just doing it, you know? And why wouldn't they? They'd done it in other countries. Why wouldn't they do it here? But anyway, so that to me, reading about Operation Chaos and Operation Chaos's connection to experimenting on people, mind control drugs on people in free clinics and stuff like that. Just all kinds of insane, crazy shit. Oh, the Tuskegee experiment, is that on there?
No, that's not on there.
And then secretly testing nuclear weapons on civilian populations in Nevada and Utah. That could be on there too. And those are real ones. Yeah. Okay. So like, to me, I think that having your first explanation for any sort of phenomenon be a conspiratorial one is incorrect. You should definitely not do that. But then looking at how much influence Jeffrey Epstein's network had on like all global politics for the past like 30 years is insane. He was involved in it somehow. I don't know how much influence he did have, but he was involved in like everything. And how much of that is, you know, because the Mossad is involved, you know, and it really sucks that Conspiranoia is generally the purview of anti-Semites. I don't know why the Mossad was just like, well, maybe because no one believes conspiracy theories because they're all just anti-Semites that are doing it. Maybe we can get away with doing these conspiracies. And then just if people point it out, be like, dude, you're anti-Semitic.
I mean, I think part of it is that a lot of early state intelligence operations were very heavily involved in anti-Semitism and anti-Semitic conspiracy theories, like the protocols of the Elders of Zion, as
which was
the project of the Okhrana.
The Okhrana and the Tsarist Russia, yeah.
And the way in which that kind of filters out into like when you read John Reed's 10 Days That Shook the World. No, wait, it's not. When you read John Reed, somewhere in his work, there's this anecdote where he's talking to a bunch of like he's trying to basically he's like reporting on the establishment of a IWW local. He's just talking to some workers who are just upset about their jobs. And then one of the guys says, yeah, it's all these Wall Street Jews. And then John Reed's like who? And the guy says, you know, like Rockefeller, Carnegie. It's like, so not really Wall Street or Jews, but the idea that there's a financialized cabal of people that happen to be Jewish, that's just easy. Like anti-Semitic conspiracy theories are very easy. They're very simple. And then, of course, ever since the Second World War with the Mossad, they act like, oh, that they gave us a good framework to use that.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. We talked about conspiracy theories being the purview of the powerless or of those who have lost, right?
Yeah.
And that's how the Nazis were able to gain so much ground with their conspiracy theories about Jews controlling the world. But then they actually like continued to believe those once they were like the most powerful military in Europe and and then dominated an entire continent. And then they acted upon those conspiracy theories to carry out the Holocaust. So it's not like they just go away as soon as you're in power. Like the Nazis actually believed those. Much to the detriment of the German war effort, they carried out their plans to rid rid Europe of Jews.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think one must recognize the relative autonomy of ideology, once it comes into existence, even if one can tie it to a more structural origin or understand where it comes from. Once it comes into existence, it's got a life of its own and can operate independently of that origin.
Well, so one question I wanted to try to figure out, begin to take a stab at getting an answer to is, why does it seem like conspiracy thinking, conspiracism, conspiranoia is so ubiquitous today? And I think the answer you partly answered it when you said that the conspiracy thinking is the purview in the first instance, of the powerless or the defeated. That's everyone. We're all defeated.
Yeah, and increasingly atomized, but flooded with information, and I guess you could say misinformation, but just unvetted information. Just cacophony, total noise of types of bits of information that are just like pouring over us every second of every day, and we're all just sort of left to make a story, make sense of what we're exposed to all the time. It's also the case that, especially here in the West, in the U.S. in particular, people are getting fucking dumber, overtly. We are. It is measurable and overt that we are, as a population, getting dumber and dumber. And I think a lot of the population is just unable to develop and wield effectively critical thinking skills in parsing the waves of information that are crashing over us constantly. So it's easy to just like get swept up into like just dumb, simple narratives that sort of make sense of things. And I also think part of what we see is there is, there are layers of the elite who are in some manner sort of classical liberals who believe in rationalism and the formal equality of human beings, and the importance of our institutions and U.S. institutions, liberal institutions, and this sort of thing. There are also very significant and well-funded sections of the elite, of the ruling class, who do not believe in any of that, and are very perfectly happy to cynically wield intentional misinformation to get people to, popular support behind the things that they find that would benefit them better. And I think the left is at a very severe disadvantage because of this dynamic of the reality of there being a very significant portion of very, very powerful people who don't believe any of the nonsense themselves, but are very, very happy to cynically wield it to prop up their position or their preferred outcomes in any given situation, and aren't really, and have zero concern for any sort of downstream social consequences for the insanity that they unleash.
It's almost like that the whole history of spectacular society has called for the secret services to play the pivotal role, for it is in them that the features and force of such a society are concentrated to the highest degree. Moreover, they are always the arbiters of society's general interests, despite their modest title of services. There is no corruption here, for they faithfully express the common morals of the spectacular century.
Yeah, it's almost like that.
It's almost like that, yeah. Actually, I want to read one more thing. This Jacobin article that we read, which I thought was pretty good. Although it reads very dated because it's very clearly from before the Charlie Kirk assassination and the Epstein
files.
Yeah, the Epstein
released,
files. Yeah. Sure. But I like this because it kind of helps it erect an overall kind of framework that it kind of fits everybody. It says, instead of conspiracy theory, there is now a standard package of conspiracism, replicable everywhere, with very few moving parts. There are the elites and their plans. The game is to see how the morning news' daily events have been manufactured by the elites to further those plans. Instead of conjuring different worlds, the standard package is a running commentary on ordinary affairs. So, for instance, a few cities unveil plans that would ensure everyone can access essential services within 15 minutes walk. This is quickly integrated into the model. The elites want to trap everyone in tightly policed zones will be forbidden to leave. There's a series of fires at poorly ventilated and overcrowded chicken farms. That means that the elites are trying to disrupt the food supply and force us all to subsist off of plant-based slop and so on. But this is not to say that the standard package is always entirely wrong. And that's every single conspiracy theory, no matter how unhinged the presentation of it is, how wildly off track it seems to be. I can't help but always detect there's always at least a kernel, if not a fair degree of rationality behind it.
Yeah. I mean, I think that a lot of this might be conspiratorial thinking on my part, but some of the conspiracies that people have, conspiracy theories that we've heard about in the past few years, like Pizzagate being one of them, was just so insane
I forgot about
and bizarre that like it was very easy to disbelieve. And that comes out in advance of the Epstein thing happening, where like a lot of the pizza shit is mentioned in the files, like the coded language and everything is. So people are actually using elements of the Pizzagate story. So elements of the Pizzagate story turned out to be partially correct. And the Pizzagate story was released by, what's his name? Was initially promoted by, I don't remember his name. He's a conservative commentator. He's like a pro-Trump guy that was Posobiec, right? Mike Posobiec, who's a former U.S. military intelligence guy, right? And so it seems to me, it's like, was that just like a limited hangout to make everyone think that anybody who talks about stuff like this is insane? So when the real story actually does come out, no one actually believes it. I mean, I used to say kind of jokingly that Alex Jones is just a psyop. He's a limited hangout constantly talking about shit that's partially correct so that whenever things do come out, people are just like, oh, that's just that Alex Jones shit. Don't listen to that. But anyway, so like, it makes me think that like a lot of this ecosystem of conspiracy theories is actually promoted by intelligence in order to throw people off. That's like what the U.S. government used to do with Area 51 stuff, is push alien narratives to keep people from talking about experimental aircraft so that the Soviets wouldn't figure it out, or whatever. As it turns out, though, there's all kinds of aliens everywhere, and fucking no one gives a shit.
Sort of. I mean, sort of. I mean, they like released a tranche of files, and I don't know. I didn't really dig into it myself, and I haven't seen any reporting by anybody sort of like saying like, oh wow, there's some like really revealing or interesting information in here. It just seems like it was just kind of like came out and nobody gave a shit about any of it.
Yeah.
But what they did release seems to have been just kind of like here's a blurry video of a thing that we're not really sure what it was or what was going on with this.
Right.
And it was just that's it. And it's like, okay, cool. Thanks, guys.
The difference is that like the military thought that it was UFOs as opposed to regular people thinking that they're UFOs.
Well, it was the military saying, here is a documented incident that we weren't able to identify what was going on here.
Right.
We don't have a conclusive, result or conclusion or whatever that we've
or a
come
plausible explanation even in some
right.
instances. Yeah.
About whatever this is. And instead, it's just like a thing that got picked up, and it could be misfiring sensors or something that, like something weird going on with the film that like recorded it, or whatever sensor picked up this strange information. It could be an unreliable witness statement, or perhaps if it's an incident with multiple sensors picking it up and multiple independent witness reports that seem to corroborate each other or something along those lines, then whatever this thing is moving in a way that seems to contradict anything we know of as how that could like physically move in this manner or something like that. But either way about it, that doesn't then mean it's super science space aliens. That means that here is a thing that we don't know what this is. That's it. That's all that it means.
We know what else it could be is like as JD Vance says, it could just be demons.
That is much I prefer that explanation over it's therefore super science space aliens.
Yeah, I honestly think so. Okay, this is the most I'll ever want to talk about aliens in my. I can't imagine talking about aliens very much on this podcast. But my kind of casual perusal of the discourse around quantum mechanics and the idea of there being what someone like Alex Jones might call different layers of reality. There's some probably very plausible explanations for the things which we see that are like this dimension or this version of events bleeding over into this one for a moment. I mean, it makes way more sense to me than or just demons, right? That makes way more sense to me than species who traveled like faster than the speed of light, hundreds of millions of light years, just to like fly past our desert and like kidnap a guy for a while to, I don't know, test him somehow. Like it's just the regular UFO conspiracies are, to me, just they're fucking silly compared to things like demons or other dimensions. Like the typical science guy explanation for alien visitation, that's the least plausible of everything as far as I can tell.
Yeah.
Arnold did an episode. Arnold of Fight Like an Animal podcast actually just recently released an episode talking about aliens, and he basically hinted at an explanation that he seems favorable to for this stuff is the like he went through like a bunch of accounts of aliens appearing, and there seem to be like some repeating patterns, but they also seem to just do weird stuff during these encounters or whatever that just don't make any sense. They're just sort of like bizarre and sideways sort of interactions with people. And then he brought up an experiment that where the scientist was trying to figure out how crows interact with crows or ravens or something, one of these smart birds, like how they interact with people, how they interact with each other, and how they like recognize people. And he was doing the experiment involved him like going into their encounter and doing just kind of weird things and like wearing a mask and seeing how the birds would respond to these various like strange behaviors and strange strange manners of self-presentation. And he suggested his suggestion at the end of the episode was sort of like, well, maybe that's what these other beings of whatever the hell they are, maybe that's what they're doing, a sort of scientific experiment and being like, well, let's see what they do when we do this, something along those lines.
That's rational.
Hello everyone, it's Chris, just dropping in to remind you that we have a Patreon. On our Patreon, we post 4 extra episodes a month. 2 of which are bonus episodes, and the other 2 are geopolitics episodes. You also get access to our Discord community, which has a zone for social interaction, but it's also where we plan and discuss our reading groups. So if you'd like to be part of our reading group, or just part of our community, please join the Discord. We've also got a merch store. We have a couple of t-shirt designs up, and you can pick what color t-shirt you want, whether you want short sleeve or long sleeve, or we have a couple of different styles of t-shirt that you can pick from. So if you'd like to help us out by throwing a few dollars our way via merch, please head on over to the link which is in our Patreon bio and in the show notes. Lastly, remember to like and subscribe and leave a review on your favorite podcatching app. All that stuff does all the magical internet things that drive people towards listening to our podcast. So, help us out. Okay, back to the show.
Anyway, I'm not even sure any of this is going to stay in this episode. Yeah, I don't like. I'm not like I don't know. Okay, here, let me try to circle this back around. With like space aliens or whatever UFO stuff it's very, very much in the same camp as like conspiracy thinking, because it's all dependent on the claim, some sort of positive claim about what is happening, in secret, undercover, that the powerful elite are keeping the true information from us about, for whatever purpose, and my reaction to this stuff has always just been like, very, very, I think has been this way even before I got a proper, Trotskyist education around the sort of subject matter. It's been a very similar sense of like, on the one hand, even if this is true, it makes zero difference in the way I live my life. It's just sort of like, okay. Now I'm going to still wake up and go to work tomorrow and, have whatever same political commitments that I had previously. But then on the other hand, compounding with that is also the fact that, like, if there is some sort of like secret, like conspiracy, whatever thing going on, I don't have any special access to information that the general population does not have access to. I'm just some guy with an internet access, and I'm not going to figure. I would rather spend my time like engaging with interesting philosophical conjectures or compelling artwork that help me to sort of think about myself and my place in the world in new and interesting ways, rather than spending my time sleuthing around on the internet reading, crazy people's screeds about what they think is actually happening behind the scenes, because I don't have any special access to any information, even if it is true. I don't have any way of really knowing what the truth of the matter really is, one way or the other. So my response has always just kind of been like, I don't know. I mean, I guess maybe it's true, maybe it's not, but I don't have much incentive to bother with trying to figure it out one way or the other. It's just sort of like, well, that's interesting, and then I move on with my life.
Like whether you are Candace Owens fan, or you're a Sammy Obeid fan, and just like, he's funny, but also it's just there's lots of conspiracy theories like kind of woven into his comedy. Either way, still just gonna have to go to work. So I read this article from a publication called The Ramparts about conspiracy theories, kind of left and right, the various versions of them.
Yeah,
and basically like the left-wing conspiracy theory kind of thrives on a foundation of trust in the institutions. Kind of the left kind of relies on institutions and experts. And then right-wing conspiracy theories, according to this, emerge from a place of skepticism toward them, and they rely more on like personal anecdotal evidence. Much greater value is placed on like observation. what strikes me as so damning and actually so important is that it ends with that basically the whole point of the essay was that there's a need to foster a culture of critical thinking and media literacy. And that's it. It's like the problem is that you believe that there are conspiracies, and you should just be smarter about.
One of the examples he uses in that article about left-wing conspiratorial thinking is the idea that the primaries were rigged against Bernie Sanders.
Yeah.
But if you look at what was her name? I forget her name, that released the internal memos from the DNC that showed that they rigged the primaries against Bernie Sanders. And then everyone was really mad about it. And it turns out that it doesn't matter because it's not illegal for the Democrats to rig a primary.
Right.
So
they're a private company.
What was her name?
They're allowed to do whatever they want. Debbie Wasserman Schultz? No, she was
no.
She's on the opposite end.
Let's see. Donna Brazil. There we go. That's who it was. Yeah. Donna Brazil released information in 2017 confirming that the DNC signed a joint fundraising agreement with Hillary Clinton's campaign well before she won the nomination, giving the Clinton camp significant control over party finances and strategy, and it gave Clinton's headquarters oversight over the National Committee, requiring the DNC to sign off on requiring the DNC to get sign off on spending and strategy decisions. So it was like very clearly rigged in Hillary Clinton's favor. And the evidence is out there, but this person, whoever wrote that article, of course, ignores the evidence that there was a conspiracy to rig the primaries in Hillary's favor and says, yeah, they believe in stuff like that.
Well, right. Like you said before, the difference is that the liberal state means whatever they're doing. That's just called news. It's right. Fine. And if you suspect foul play, you might be kind of a right winger.
I remember whenever
only the right suspects foul play of the liberal state.
I remember whenever the Epstein files Epstein was first arrested, and there was like the first information coming out about him in 2019. And I remember saying to friends of mine at the time, like, yeah, this very clearly this guy was running like some sort of like honeypot operation for intelligence. And, that's what it just seems to be, like the Occam's razor of the situation. And like to the last person, it really depended on whether or not you're a right wing or left wing. My more liberal left wing friends liberal and left wing friends just completely dismissed that as nonsense.
Right.
And then my friends who lean more right immediately accepted it, And I was just like, what the fuck? Like, and that's it. For liberals, they don't want to believe that their government or allied governments could be involved in something like child sex trafficking. And for leftists, there's just that sort of knee-jerk reaction to any kind of anything that can't be described by a very simple dynamic of this benefits capital in this way. So, if the
it's like
if the explanation is more complex than that, then they don't want anything to do with it.
Yeah, because everyone knows anti-Semitism is the socialism of fools, and conspiratorial thinking is anti-Semitism. Period.
Right. Yeah, I've definitely heard that before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a.
Even though Epstein was a Jewish supremacist working for Mossad to run this operation, it's anti-Semitic to say that.
I've been told that saying that Epstein was a Jewish supremacist is anti-Semitic.
He was.
Yeah, if you read like Epstein's emails and if you read what he says, that's anti-Semitic.
Oh yeah.
So there's just
leftists are so touchy about seeming anti-Semitic for some reason. The leftists never really had a problem with anti-Semitism, but there is a problem with anti-Zionism being conflated with anti-Semitism. So the left tries extra hard to not be anti-Semitic while they're being anti-Zionist. And I think that some people just go a little bit too hard on that.
Yeah. I think so. I also think that the foundational problem there is that trying to make a distinction between leftist and liberal is kind of just doesn't really work anyways.
Yeah, it's very hard.
This is a hobby horse of mine that, like, if we take the words literally, like, which is what they actually mean, the liberals, whether they're progressive or they're conservative, whether they are right-wing or left-wing, whether they call themselves whatever, it's all the same thing, really. Even if it's not formally, it's the way that the typical liberal defends the society and the idea and the expertise of the people in charge. That's also kind of the way that the Marxist types, the
pro-revolutionaries,
the pro-revolutionary types, they kind of do have the same basic thinking. Like I wrote this note when I was reading Understanding and Addressing the Rise of Conspiracy Theories in the 21st Century. I wrote, thus far, no one seems interested in identifying the crisis of meaning and the role that certainty plays in a person's life. Instead of, fostering multidisciplinary dialogue and empirically grounded research and so on. That's the kind of stuff that they talk about.
Right.
And I think I was actually asked at one point to write an article for a socialist publication, wherever, it doesn't even exist anymore, for Socialist Worker, about how conspiracy theories are detrimental to the movement, whatever that movement is, and that how they
all
are
of them.
Yeah, exactly, and how they are inherently right wing, and they're also kind of anti-Semitic. And I didn't end up writing it because I couldn't bring myself to do it. Although at the time I kind of thought that way.
Right.
But now thinking back, I just think, like, that's such an unhelpful position, such an unhelpful lens by which to look at this stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I kind of struggle. I do kind of struggle with conspiracy stuff because it's like I said, I've never really thought much about it. Any of this kind of stuff, conspiracy stuff. It's so popular. People get so fucking like worked up about conspiracy theories, and it really, like, so many people are just so compelled by conspiracy theory, and it's increasingly so. And it's like a really popular thing for people to talk about. But for me, I'm just so kind of bored of it. I'm like, okay, is there good evidence for the thing you're talking about? All right, then it's like history or like current events. Is there not good evidence for it? Then what difference? Then, like, why are we talking about it? It doesn't matter to me. Like, I don't know. I don't know. Like, I'm not going to figure this stuff out by like reading, sleuthing around the internet. And it doesn't. Yeah. I just don't I don't find it very interesting or compelling to like spend a bunch of time on, trying to figure out all the secret things that are happening in the world. There's definitely, I guess, that moment in time where, after the Epstein files were released, where it was just like, man, it was just like the entire just like mainstream news feed was like all of the conspiracy theories that Pizzagate was talking about were actually true.
I mean, there's also like very clearly operating conspiracies where you can see them happening in full time. And it doesn't take a lot of sleuthing or a lot of like suspension of disbelief in order to tell that they're happening. Like, there is a very clear coordinated conspiracy within the United States media, the global Western media, to not report what's actually going on in Gaza, right?
Yeah.
And / or Iran now. And in pretty much any conflict Ukraine. Ukraine, where the collective West is engaged in something that people might have a problem with if they actually knew what was going on. So you can very clearly, like, as someone like me or Jason, who was following this as it happened in real time, look at the media talking about neo-Nazis in Ukraine, all the way up until the Russian invasion, where those neo-Nazis all of a sudden, by the same writers and the same publications, became freedom fighters who weren't Nazis and talking about how they're Nazis is giving credibility to conspiracy theory talking points that are put out by the Kremlin and stuff like that. Disinformation and conspiracy theory. So you could definitely see it happening in real time. And of course, all of the narratives about the Ukraine war are exposed by people who can see what's going on the ground, because it's very hard to cover up the videos, the geolocated videos, and the independent reporting that's going on, and the independent people on the ground, like Ukrainians themselves, talking about what's going on. It's very hard to cover that up for everyone. But the mainstream media in the West has all agreed to report official press releases from the Ukrainian government only. And similarly in Iran and Gaza was exposed by TikTok videos and Instagram posts,
And
but
some ultra Zionist billionaires bought TikTok. Larry Ellison bought TikTok and CBS, and there was a concerted Zionist conspiracy to control the media because the narrative got out of hand.
I mean, this is the reason. This is the real reason for us to talk about it, because if we take the position, if we have an attitude about this stuff, which we could call inherited from our upbringing, political upbringing.
Mm-hmm.
When you look on Instagram and you see someone with that's the problem with like a little juice box. It's like, that's the problem with the juices, and they'll say like, oh, maybe the Austrian painter was right or whatever. And you're like, that's awful stuff. But then they're saying that about objectively way more awful stuff when it comes to like using dogs to rape Palestinian prisoners, or stealing and building settlements on Lebanese land.
Right.
So if we don't have a handle on this kind of stuff, and we rely on our 90s and 2000s really limited ultra scientistic whatever Marxist training, I don't think we can quite understand, let alone relate to the way that especially young people today they're all over the place, and they think a lot about these things, and in some ways, even to the degree that even despite the degree to which they are sometimes detestable,
right? In
a lot of ways, they see things more clearly than like an ISR article might in 2005. So it's a hard needle to thread, but I think it's important. It's hard. It's also hard to talk about, but it's worth trying to do a little bit at least.
Yeah. Like, I think that it's become pretty ubiquitous online to see anti-Semites in the comments saying the Jews did this, the Jews did that, as opposed to the Zionists. And if you ask me, I think that's the fault of Israel. They've done a very good job of conflating Zionism and Judaism, and saying that anybody who says differently about it is actually an anti-Semite themselves, while carrying out horrific crimes. So they've successfully created an entire layer of young people who conflate the Jews with the crimes of Israel.
And they're happy to see, just like they were from the outset. They're perfectly happy to see the proliferation of explicit anti-Semitism throughout the world, because that helps to encourage, acceptance of the Zionist project itself.
Yeah. Right. I had a professor when I was an undergrad. I had a Palestine flag on my backpack strap, and he as a button on my backpack strap, and he, in front of the class, as I was turning in my final paper, like, everyone's working, not my final paper, my final exam, everyone's working in class. There's like 20 kids in there still. And I come in, I turn in my final paper. He sees it and calls me out as an anti-Semite. And I was like, no, I'm not anti-Jewish. I'm pro-Palestinian. I just believe that Palestinians should have the right to the land that is historically theirs. Anyway, so we had a short little argument in class while everyone was taking a test. And he told me that he likes to see instances of anti-Semitism like that, because then he can take that to his donors and they'll give him tons of money to help combat it.
Yeah,
he says that he
very
told me
healthy,
that he
very
took an
normal.
ISO flyer about it was the for a talk that we did that was from Iraq to Palestine in the occupation, and that was a talk that was going on. And he said he took that flyer and used it in a mailer to help raise money for the Jewish Studies department on campus. And the Jewish Studies department on our campus was explicitly just an Israel booster club.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I mean, like, we know for a fact, and from their own lips, that they encourage anti-Semitism and think it's okay. Just like the original Zionists said that people like Hitler were the best thing that could ever happen to the Zionist project, because it means that Jews will not feel safe anywhere and they'll need to come to Israel. That's not a conspiracy theory. That's out in the open. You could just Google it and find it. Don't Google it, because Google's such a shit search engine.
Oh God, I know.
What's a good search engine? I can't find a good one. They all suck.
It doesn't exist anymore. My understanding was that the tech industry's trajectory was total shitification of everything, and you have to pay for services that actually function in the future. Like, that's how it's going to work. I haven't seen that with the search engine. There aren't even good search engines that you can pay for out there. You know, it doesn't exist. It's just everything's just shitty.
In one of my classes, my German classes that I took, the professor had us use ChatGPT to Google things because it searches better than any search engines do. You could type in a detailed search question and it'll give you exactly what you're looking for. And I was just like, fuck, dude, is this what we're going to have to do in order to actually find anything?
Probably. That's probably exactly what it is like the ChatGPT or whatever, like the paid platforms of that are going to become the new, like, that's the new search engine that actually works. Because if you tell it to give you its sources and stuff instead of just like shitting out whatever hallucinated nonsense.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of conspiracy theories, which turn out to just be true, the conscious deliberate shitification of the internet in order to help normalize and expand the use of artificial intelligence, which is going to help make the world worse, uglier, and less efficient, destroy the earth, and also make sure that you graduate with debt but no job prospects. And dude. That kind of thinking at one point was that's tinfoil hat stuff. Like 5 years ago, that was an insane thing to say, and now it's
just happening.
That's just normal. Yeah, it's just, and I guess in a way, I guess that's kind of my my overall position on conspiracy thinking. Anyways, like, it might sound really crazy, but if you spend too much time looking into stuff, sometimes it's not so crazy.
Sometimes the stuff looks into you.
Oh, right. I had a point, a general point about the general breakdown of the social cohesion of society. But I don't know. Maybe we made that point already.
Yeah, I think we did.
Well, so I think that, like, the rise in conspiracy thinking, conspiratorial thinking, is hand in hand with the loss of hope that comes. Like, everyone has abandoned the. Like, young people have abandoned the two major parties and don't see any way out of the downward spiral that our society is in right now. So it's simultaneously comforting to be able to lay it all at the feet of some grand actor, as well as reinforcing that sort of hopelessness. You can just say, like, okay, so it's these 5 guys that did this, and I know we can't do anything about it, but if someone could, then everything could be better, right? So it's like it's sort of like a hopelessness that is embedded with a grain of hope, like, abstractly. And I think that that's why it's popular. And I used to say it was because people really, really like thinking that they understand something that no one else understands. And I think that's part of the core of this conspiratorial thinking that has sustained itself throughout the 80s, 90s, and 2000s. There's just like libertarian right wingers who really need to be smarter and know more than everyone else, and have a pretty decent online grift talking about it. Yeah, that's definitely part of it, but that doesn't explain the popularity of it now. And I think it has to do with needing some sort of it's almost like a metaphysical structure to understand the world in, right? It's almost like a spiritual answer to the problem. It's like, rather than believing that God is up there controlling what happens, it's like there's a cabal of people that are controlling what happens. So if we could just get rid of them or put good people in at the head of it, then maybe things could be different, you know? It just helps. It helps explain things, even if it doesn't make anything any better. And there's a certain comfort in being able to explain things.
Yeah,
Right.
definitely.
Right. Yeah, there absolutely is a human impulse toward recognizing conscious intention behind the things that we encounter in the world, the forces around the world, and this one phase in human development was animistic societies where there was gods and fairies and spirits behind everything that happens: the thunder, the waves, the cycling of the seasons, the astral bodies. These are all sort of, there's conscious forces that we see behind them that got wrapped up into various different monotheistic religions in the West anyway, for a long time, with angels and demons and God behind everything. And all of that got evacuated out of the way we engage with the world through the Enlightenment, where the world became radically disenchanted. But nonetheless, the human tendency to recognize conscious intention behind social forces, whether nefarious or otherwise, is still there. And I think that's part of what draws people to conspiracy theories, because instead of alluding to mindless mechanical social forces, it says there's a conscious actor at play here, and that resonates with us as human beings.
Yeah,
I think it resonates with us as human beings, partially because when we talk about mindless, mechanical, historical forces, it feels like we're not really quite talking about reality, because I think I think that is bending the stick too far in the other direction. I think that when we discount all agency, so this is just how things are, we actually kind of we help till the ground to the conspiratorial thinking kind of grows in, because it can't all just be material conditions and that's it. It can't be that none of this is intentional at all, and that powerful human beings, groups of human beings, that their will has no bearing on the world. That seems wrong. It can't be right. But at the same time, we haven't any ability to actually array ourselves against it, because yes, we believe in democracy, and whatever let's say we're in favor of some democratic upsurge, or we're revolutionaries or whatever, but like we don't have that. So instead, all we have is just the knowledge, or at least the suspicion, that there's got to be more to it than just randomness and unthinking action. And that's how we become, conspiranoiacs. But I guess, it doesn't matter how uncomfortable it is. The only way out is through. And so one way or the other, you've got to figure out a way to actually have an equally powerful will that we can kind of manifest and act upon the world in the same way that we think that the cabal or the secret societies or whoever is doing.
Yeah.
There was that one article that I just thought was funny, and I read it. I thought it would just be funny to bring it up, and that was the libertarian guy talking about how engaging in conspiratorial thinking gives color to gives cover to claims about the economy and society being able to be planned, which is something that they, as classical liberals, know is incorrect. It is not possible to plan economies, and it is not possible to plan societies. So if you believe in conspiracy theories, you're just giving in to the logic of socialism. And I was like, wow.
That's one that says that liberals must rely on reason and logic because conspiracy theories are a form of socialism.
That's impressive. I like that inversion. Jason, I like your point you made. It's calling on us to be the conspiracists we want to see in the world.
Yeah, it's he wants us to do secret society socialism. He's mentioned that several times. We need to create like a new Knights of Labor, an explicitly socialist Knights of Labor. Knights of Labor, for anybody who doesn't know, was like one of the very first labor organizations that was like set up like a Masonic lodge system, but it was for organizing workers. They had degrees and everything, the way that the Masonic lodges do.
Yeah, it was the birth of the movement last time. Maybe it can be the rebirth of the movement this time.
I tried to pull up the Jacobin article, but the link, I think it changed the one that I had read, because I think because the ending was I thought was really cool. Still, maybe conspiracy theory will survive the death of conspiracism. It's survived worse. In The Cheese and the Worms, historian Carlo Ginzburg examines the personal mythology developed by Minocchio, a 16th century miller who was tried by the Inquisition in northern Italy. In Minocchio's account of creation, all was chaos. That is, earth, air, water, and fire were mixed together, and out of that bulk a mass formed, just as cheese is formed out of milk. And worms appeared in it, and these were the angels. The first worm to appear out of this cosmic cheese was the being that Minocchio's neighbors worshipped as God. Minocchio was a very particular type of person, an autodidact, totally uncredentialed, cobbling together his knowledge from scraps of prescribed books and stubborn refusal to let other people decide what he could or couldn't think. He was a ranter who upset the public by loudly announcing that priests were liars, Christ was only a man, and even God was just an invented being in a universe that had formed basically by accident. In other words, he was a conspiracy theorist. At his trial, the inquisitors formally refuted every element of his worldview, and then, to cap things off, they killed him. But Minocchio won in the end. His naturalistic cosmology is now the received wisdom, the thing that the flat earthers are struggling against. Ginsburg suggests that Minocchio's theories might have been the expression of a subterranean culture of the popular classes, a peasant religion unknown to written history, transmitted across thousands of years. The identification of angels with worms echoed a passage in Dante, whom Minocchio had never read. The primal universe as a sea of milk is also a theme in Turkic and Vedic creation stories. This is possible. What's more likely is this. As long as the world is unsatisfying, people will find ways to invent another.
Рабочие крестьяне не смогут прожить без нас. Без нас некому будет установить порядок, определить работу, тянуть труду. Без нас все развалится и государство распадется.